I think for me there are three areas that inform my practice, three things that I look at when I come to make work, and they are the history of audiovisual archiving. For me, I work as an audiovisual archivist, so this means I should know how to conserve film, how to treat film and sound. To do so, it's important to know how film is composed. So for me, I like to work with 16mm film rather than analog or digital video, because it's more about the science behind, like the photography, and it's then more about the nature of light. So you're working with photosensitive materials, light and emulsion. But another area, I'm from Brisbane, and I run a number of events which are based around live cinema, particularly film. So it's also important in this case because the technology is really coming from a certain time, a particular era, and a lot of this work has been, until recently, historically neglected. So in order to see this work, you must, it takes a lot to present the work. So I run something in Australia called OtherFilm, and this is dedicated to expanded cinema or film performance. So this area called expanded cinema is a historical term coming from the 1960s, 1970s. There were some main areas of artists, such as the London Filmmakers Co-op. But this work, expanded cinema, it means it was a meeting point for the film moving away from the cinema, and perhaps more so in the white cube, the gallery. So the film, typically in an industrial system, a commercial system for film, the process is very locked down. You have projector and projectoring booth, and then you have beam, an audience, and screen. So in expanded cinema, artists sought, historically and contemporary artists, seek to rearrange and break down and expose the elements that are normally very locked in the industrial system of film. I think I like to work in the photographic darkroom. So for me, this has more to do with photography than it does with this typical system of film and the film industry. But I have been working a lot on using the soundtrack area of film, because in the industrial system, I guess the sound is read as an image. So I don't know, I think I'll just pass this around. So you can have a look and just pass on. But if you look, you'll find that the area, not the sprocket area, the other side, this side is for sound. So you can print into this area, and that means that the image will be read as the sound. I'll explain briefly the technical system. It's this part of the projector here. So you have a light bulb, and this part is illuminating through a little lens. It's focusing the light into a photosensor. So this means that the photographic image can be read as sound because it's the variation in the width and the height. This is like a pitch and amplitude, and because of this shift in light and density, then the sound can be modulated through the photographic image. But I'm going to play some now. Probably you came along last night, so I don't need to warn you. But so for me, I'm currently working in the darkroom with image, but at the moment it's also as much about sound and just printing sound. But This is difficult without a film loop. But this means that then you can also use other light sources to affect the sound as well. So these devices are useful for a live performance. But I'll just run this one more time. I think this is kind of hard to hear, but you can see that basically this part of the projector is just a photo sensor. So the way I work with sound, it's very like a texture, and you can print this in a number of ways. So this is kind of a fun way of working, I think, and it's a photochemical way. But I guess the explanation about breaking down those elements of the cinema and rearranging and exposing, this is a central element. I think it's important it's more performance-based than it should be on the screen. So, I don't know what else I should talk about right now. Does anyone have any questions? Maybe you saw the performance, and is there anything you would like to ask about? You know, maybe questions are later, but perhaps someone has a comment that I could respond to about the type of work. If there's something I'm not explaining.
Is this something you printed, or is this like real recorded sound?
So this is something I printed. So normally that area there would be printed in a film laboratory. Usually it's a commercial process. So in a film laboratory you can record a waveform onto that soundtrack area. But this means that you can also appropriate that type of technology if you use it in a very DIY or manual way. So this, yes, is... Yes, so this is like the width and the height, gives you the pitch and the amplitude. But these are different things. You can use an image that you could film anything. Any image can be read as sound. If you have something very detailed, then this... Yes, any photographic image. But these I've chosen to use, deliberately chosen to use things that are like tones or very, very basic, because then you're having a much stronger sound. But you can print something much more complex in there too. So like any type of image, anything going through will be read. But I'll just take one back. Thank you. If you just give me a minute to unthread this, it's a little bit finicky, like a little bit annoying, so hold on. But and I think you saw last night, if you came to the performance, you can see that sometimes the technology, you're always having to work with the different machines to get them to work. I mean, that's why I'm interested as well in audiovisual archiving. It's the technology and the history which is interesting to reappropriate and wrangle. So I'm just going to thread this into the soundtrack area, but I don't need to have it running. I can pull the film through the projector. So I can in a minute anyway. Everyone can just wait while I do this. Yep. It has to sit there. But I think it's interesting too, sometimes you can also bypass elements of the projector. You don't have to use it all either. You could pull the film through, or you can take off the lens. So this is interesting too, to change the technology a bit. But I don't know, does anyone else have any questions? Maybe I can respond.
I was wondering, you could say a few words on the structure of your performance yesterday, because I was wondering how much is actually just a technical aspect that sets certain length, how much, how you think about the whole performance in terms of minutes you play this piece that long, and
sure.
Some parts also with sound only and without images, and just
So normally if I'm performing, I like to do multiple pieces and I can show different elements of my interest with film. But to do this, you probably saw yesterday, I like to call it like projection Olympics or projection sports, because it can be very difficult to change the films over. But this is good. I kind of like the challenge, because if something will malfunction, then I have to think, well, how should I do it now? And every time I perform, it's a new performance and a new idea, because I think I've found out the most and learned the most out of performing. I think if I wasn't performing live, then my work would not be developing. I need to perform live to come up with a new idea. So when things go right and wrong, this is fine, because then I have some new ideas during the performance. So now I can make the next work based on something that might have happened last night. And does anyone like to ask anything about the work, or a random idea or thought?
There was 3 pieces last night, right?
One piece, the projector was snapping the film quite a lot, so one piece I left. But there was a few pieces interchangeable, swapping. But as I was mentioning earlier, that I'm also curating this work in Australia, because the work is very specialist. There are scenes of it around the world, so it's always important to travel and to show that work, but to also bring artists to Australia, because it's very hard to document this work or to show it. Historically, this has been a problem for the expanded cinema movement, but it's a specialist field, but it has a kind of appeal for many different type of interests. Great. Is there, I don't know what else I should add, because I didn't have a presentation, so I just have the projector, but I could just stand here talking and everything. Okay, well that's all I'm presenting today, but afterwards, if you have any questions, then please come and chat.